Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming to our presentation, specifically to talk about our office here, Graduate Student and Program Consultation Services. So it's going to be me, Jemiah Barrett. I'm the Conflict Resolution and Academic Relations Specialist, giving a part of our presentation here today, and then I'll give it over to Devin so he can introduce himself.
Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Devin Berghorst. I serve as the Director of Graduate Student and Program Consultation Services. Glad to be here this morning.
All right. So we have some really good topics we want to talk about with you all today. It will be an opportunity for everyone to kind of engage a little bit more, but we're going to start off with a poll. So if my slide would go. Okay, here we go. So if you'll take out your phones and click this QR code, you can go to our poll. But if you're having challenges, I've also included the poll here in the chat. Okay. So going to our poll here, this is going to be an interactive poll for you. So what you're going to see is our very first question, which is where are we at? Sorry. As you think about graduate school, which areas are you excited about? Okay, so obviously we know going into graduate school is going to be a new adjustment for a lot of folks. You don't know what to expect. Some of it's going to be exciting. Some of it can be really like gut wrenching. But I'd love to know what kind of areas are you looking forward to? So I'm seeing, okay, learning new things, meeting new people, advancing research, moving to a new place. Michigan has a lot to offer. So if you're not a native or you've never been, there's definitely a lot for you to look forward to. Okay, give it a little bit more before we move on to our next question. Okay, so we're winning out here. We're learning new things. Obviously, a couple more interests, but sounds like a lot of you are just looking forward to learning new things. So let's go to our next one here. As you think about graduate school, what are areas that you're nervous about? Okay. Okay. I'm seeing a lot of new people, a new place, going back to advancing your research and learning some new things, but more often, it sounds like you all are just kind of nervous about meeting new people. As you know, you'll get the chance to meet new folks from your cohort. You'll also get the chance to meet a number of different faculty and folks within your program. But outside of just your area of discipline, you'll get the chance to meet a wide variety of different people at different stages in their academic career, as well as their interest across campus. So that is definitely something to kind of be a little worried about, but exciting new opportunities, new chances for growth. Okay. And we're going to move on to our last question here. Where would you go if you ran into a problem? So, whether that be academic or personal while you're here in graduate school. Okay. So I'm seeing a lot of folks saying my advisor, some are saying family members, campus resources, department chair, or the program staff. But a lot of you sound like you go to your advisor, looking for support, and help for navigating some of those challenges. So you're not completely off base. A lot of graduate students, are doing the exact same thing. You're getting to the rhythm of relying on your family or maybe your friends. But as you're getting ready to go into graduate school and embark on a new adventure, you get more comfortable going to your advisor. So, with that being said, let us transition back into just a second. Okay. think my screen share is giving me an issue. Let's try it again. All right, here we go. So we just finished our poll questions here, and giving a good look at everything's and everybody's responses. We're seeing you're really excited about new people, new challenges, but you're going to get prepared to kind of reach out to your advisor and rely on them a little bit heavier. So let's talk about specifically our Office of Graduate Student and Program Consultation Services. So, what is it exactly that we do? So, we do a wide variety of different things, but here we want to hone in on the student support, faculty and staff consultations, and resolution services. You all will begin to kind of navigate some new experiences here within graduate school, and some of that being providing a neutral environment where you know you can express yourself and get some insight without there being a form of bias. So sometimes when you talk with faculty or staff, you sometimes might have in the back of your mind, oh, they just want to tell me the best parts about the program. You can reach out to our office and we can give you an unbiased experience, as well as we want to listen to what's going on with you. So we're invested in your success here. So that's not going to be an opportunity for us to kind of blow you off. We'll take your concerns to heart. As well as we do often sometimes refer individuals to different campus resources, depending on what your needs are. And sometimes we are able to mediate conflict, and sometimes that conflict can be between you and a faculty member, or occasionally some challenges with staff as well. Our office also advocates for a fair process as well as advises on university policy and procedure. So, as you navigate your program's policies as well as the university and Rackham's policies, you might have a couple of questions. We want to be a resource for you and help you as you navigate some of those policies, help answer any questions you may have, as well as helping you have a fair process if you go through any of our more formal processes. Right? And then we're going to go to a couple of examples here. First one being relationship concerns related to your advisor or PI. That's where we kind of talk about the neutrality, listening to your concerns, ironing through what some of those issues may include. Some of that may be feedback or unclear expectations. We also talk about academic progress or any coursework concerns you may have. As you navigate through your academic career, you're going to come across a number of different challenges, and that can change depending on what your needs may be. We also talk about lab settings, so including group dynamics or even some safety or protocol concerns. And then we talk about access to or eligibility for emergency funding, which I won't say too much about because we're going to talk about a little bit more in depth shortly here. But we are also a resource for you should you have any financial needs. And then lastly, mental or physical health concerns. Don't hesitate to reach out to us just in case you don't know where else to go. We can be a really great resource for you in addressing those concerns or connecting you to the appropriate areas. Okay.
All right, thanks, Jemaya. So I guess with all of that, why would you reach out to us? Why would you reach out to GSpec? So contact us if one, you're having a problem or a conflict involving the university and don't know where to go to resolve it. We often have folks reach out to us just trying to figure out where do I start. Sometimes that's something that we can help you with if it's one of the policies that we help to manage. But sometimes we're going to talk to you, do that consultation, and help get you over to maybe a more appropriate unit who can help you navigate whatever kind of that specific thing is that you're working on. One of the joys of the University of Michigan is that we are large and decentralized. So sometimes what might seem like a simple question might actually involve a whole lot of work to come to an answer. So we can help you navigate that. Come to us if you feel like you're reaching out to folks, but you're not being heard. We're pretty good at this, at listening and hearing you and really helping to make sure that you are getting what you need, as long as it's within our power to help you with that. If you need information about policies and procedures that are affecting you, you can come talk to us. We are pretty well versed, I would say very well versed in Rackham policy. And we're pretty good at policy related to other spaces around campus as well. So we can help you kind of figure that out and figure out which policies are impacting you when and where. If you need help to resolve or mediate a dispute with faculty or staff, come chat with us. We can talk to you about various ways to resolve conflict. Sometimes that's through a formal process, like our academic dispute resolution process. Sometimes that's more informal. It can look like some just conversations that we can help to facilitate. Um, we might even get you connected with another unit on campus. Um, but we can help you navigate that and figure out what your options are there. Knowing that it can feel isolating at times when you are experiencing a dispute, particularly with your department. We can help you navigate that and make sure that you have somewhere to go. Um, and then finally, if you believe your rights have been violated or you've not been given due process, come talk with us. Again, we are well versed in the various policies and processes that can help to address this. Um, Particularly our academic dispute resolution process, but we can also get you connected with, an ombuds if you want to talk with somebody else. Um, but we can help you navigate that and figure out what your options are, where you can go, what this means for you in your program, what this means for you moving forward. Um, so we can help with all of those things. Can we go to the next slide? So, one other thing that we can help navigate is the Rackham Emergency Fund. So, Rackham offers up to $2,500 for eligible expenses, things like medical needs, emergency travel, unexpected events. Master's students are eligible for one award, PhD students are eligible for two. Um, so, some things to kind of keep in mind with these emergency funds. It really is for those emergency expenses, those things that are unexpected. We know that life can throw some curveballs at folks, and things will come up where all of a sudden you're in a position where you're like, I wasn't planning for this, I wasn't expecting this, and I have no way of paying for this thing. The emergency fund is a really great resource for that. Where the emergency fund might not be the best resource is for those kind of known and planned expenses, or those things that you're like, yeah, this is going to be kind of hard to pay for, but I can, but I kind of don't want to. Um, that might not be the best use of the emergency fund, but for those unexpected ones and those emergencies, true emergencies, um, please come find us. So Jemiah and I don't actually manage this process, but what we're often doing is helping students figure out how do you apply, um, what things are eligible, and how do you make your case for why you might need funding. So we can help with all of those things. And in cases where emergency funding might not be the best option, at least Rackham funding, we can also help you think about what other options might be out there, or other avenues there are for addressing whatever your concerns are. A few other things that we do out of GSpecs. We manage both the leave of absence policy and the parental accommodation policy. So for PhD students in Rackham, and it's PhD students specifically, we have a leave of absence policy that covers four kind of different areas of leave: personal leave, medical leave, family necessity or dependent care, and military service. So each of these are designed to allow a PhD student to step away for at least a semester, um, and kind of pause your program. It really kind of truly serves as a pause. It pauses your funding. So you're not wasting a semester of funding if you go on leave. The flip side of that is you're also not receiving that funding while you're on leave. Um, but what a leave also does is it adds a semester onto your total time to degree. So that way, taking a leave doesn't feel like you are taking away a semester of that progress that you need to make. So it doesn't necessarily change the clock for you in terms of time to completion. Each of the four leaves has slightly different kind of things associated with them. But for example, a medical leave, given that it is a medical situation, one of the things that we can help with is maintaining your health insurance, assuming you have grad care. So we can help navigate that to make sure that you're still covered while you're on leave. Um, uh, a lot of these leaves can be requested at any time, at just about any time of the year. But we do have a leave coordinator here in the office. His name's Joel. If you ever have questions about taking a leave, um, come talk to us. Come talk to Joel. He can help you figure out, which leave might be the best for you. What are the kind of details that you need to know? What are the nuances of things? And we can help you navigate that. And just to be clear, this is a formal leave process and policy, different than something that you might work out with your program to say, hey, I need to take 2 weeks away for whatever it might be. It might be medical, it might be personal, it could be anything. That's a more kind of informal thing that you would work out directly with your program, your advisor, your PI, whoever that might be. Um, Different than this formal leave of absence policy. Um, and then similar but different is the parental accommodation policy. Um, you'll notice that this is considered an accommodation policy and not a leave policy. So the parental accommodation policy provides 6 to 12 weeks um, for birth or adoption of a child, and each parent or partner is eligible for that leave. The parent who's giving birth in that case is up to 12 weeks. The non-birthing parent is 6 weeks. One of the things to keep in mind with the accommodation policy is that it's not a true leave. So you can start this at any time and then return to classes or your labs or whatever that looks like once the your 6 to 12 weeks are up. Students who are on this or fall under this policy maintain their funding during that time of the policy, and it also adds an extra semester of time to the end of your kind of clock, if you will. So again, we're not impacting time to degree. The one thing to keep in mind funding wise, so this is a difference between the leave policy. The leave policy does pause your funding so that when you come back from a leave, your funding package is still exactly the same as it was. You don't kind of burn a semester using a leave policy. For the parental accommodation policy, you maintain your funding through that accommodation period. Um, but you are using funding during that time. So it's just something to think about. And again, if there's questions about that, we can help answer those and we can help figure out kind of what that looks like, what that means for you, and really dive into what's going to be the best option for you in that case. So, and then one more thing that we do out of GSpecs, we offer various workshops, um, kind of like this. We can talk to folks about navigating difficult conversations. This is a great one for, really thinking about how do we kind of skill build, how do we approach, how do we manage conflict, kind of all of those things around difficult conversations. Those difficult conversations might be with, an advisor or a PI. It might be with, folks in your cohort or program. Um, it can also just be a great life skill. We can certainly talk about that. We are well practiced in thinking about conflict. Um, Jemiah is a pro at talking about conflict styles and things like that, and really figuring out how does that show up when we're managing those difficult conversations. Kind of along those lines, but a little different. We can also do group dynamics, and really thinking about groups and what that looks like, how we navigate those groups, and what uh, dynamics are at play there, good, bad, or otherwise, with the hope of maybe making a positive impact on that group dynamic, or even just understanding kind of what's going on and where people are coming from. We can also offer listening circle conversations. This is a way for us to help facilitate the ability for folks to kind of share how they're feeling, and what they're thinking in a kind of mediated space, so folks can really listen. Um, we talk about this all the time, especially in navigating difficult conversations. Often folks are listening to respond, as opposed to listening to understand. Our listening circle conversations are a way to help folks really understand. And sometimes that understanding is for a program. Where we can listen to students in a program and offer kind of a high level feedback to a program. Sometimes that's within a program where again there's group dynamics at play and folks just need to kind of listen and talk to each other, but we can offer that as well. So Jemiah and I also host virtual office hours. This will start up again in the fall, so it runs fall and winter semester. We take a break in the summer or spring summer, but we host those Monday and Wednesday from 2 to 3 p.m. Those are on Zoom. There's a link right on our website, so you can jump on there, jump into the queue, and we'll be there waiting. But otherwise, if you need to chat with us, you can always just reach out to our office, uh, either through email at rackham-gspecs@umich.edu. You can email either one of us directly if you'd like, or we have a link to a form on our website to submit a resolution intake form, and that will get us connected with you as well. So there's a lot of different ways to reach us. We are here, so please come find us if there's anything that's coming up. And if there's something that wasn't in here and you're just like, I have a question and I really, really have no idea where to go with this, or I just need help finding something, you know, reach out to us. We're happy to help, even if we're not necessarily the right people to help you with your specific situation. We'll get you to wherever you need to go, and we'll get you going in the right direction. So we're here, happy to help, happy to be here. And with that, I think we have time for questions. I know it's early. I'm still trying to get my coffee in too.
So we recognize that there's a lot of new experiences, but are PhD students fully funded? That's our first question. So Rackham's policy is that we do offer year-round funding for our PhD students. However, every individual graduate student within a PhD program does receive a contract for a certain amount of years and a funding package. So your funding package may not look like another student's funding package. However, that is something you would want to discuss with your program. If you have any questions about, is it going to include being a GSI? Does that include maybe a fellowship where you're working with a specific researcher? Those are things you're going to want to dive further into, nuanced with your program. Um, but yes, Rackham does support fully funding our doctoral students. I know a lot of you were kind of nervous about meeting new people. You might have a question around how will I meet new people? Are there ways that Rackham can support that? So who is eligible for the application fee waiver? That is something we cannot directly answer because I think that kind of goes through admissions and potentially financial aid. Devin, do you know?
I'm Googling.
Okay.
The admissions website for Rackham um, says eligibility for a Rackham application fee waiver available for U.S. citizens and permanent residents who have demonstrated financial need. Financial need is demonstrated by having been the recipient of a Pell Grant and or by having a student aid index, SAI, of less than $1,500.
Right. And then Danielle has included the link to the application fee waiver, should you all want to kind of explore it as well. Okay. So meeting people, there's a lot of different social clubs, as well as Rackham actually has study rooms. You might accidentally meet someone within the study room in which you build a lasting connection with. So we have those within the building on our second floor. It's vast. Like I wish I was a student sometimes to just be able to come in and really enjoy it. If you've seen those Harry Potter movies, it looks very, very like just like that. It looks very sophisticated. That's one way in which you can meet folks. But of course, the university itself, they offer a lot of different programs and events in which you can engage with other people and go from there. Okay. So are there leaves that can be applied to mental health related matters? So going back to the Rackham leaves, 2 points for Gryffindor. Going back to the Rackham leaves, you can choose to take a personal leave, which if you look on our website, it tells you what qualifies as a personal leave and how you can go about applying for it. But any mental health related concerns you have could fall under a personal leave for you, or if you have medical backing or working with a medical professional, that could fall under a medical leave as well.
Yes.
And of course, we recognize, some of the questions you might be a little scared to ask. As Devin mentioned, you do have our personal emails, as well as I believe the recording should be stopped. Just for those who may have like, specific kind of questions. Okay. The profile of a typical admitted student look like? I think those are very good questions, but those questions may not be best for us to answer because our graduate students look very different.
Yeah, I would say, when we're thinking about the profile of an admitted student, that would vary program to program, depending on, what each program is kind of looking for and what their, admission process and standards and everything looks like. I think about, with Rackham, we work across a variety of students within the university. So everything from engineering to, you know, classical studies. And I would imagine that the profile of those students looks very different. Um, So I would absolutely encourage you then to reach out to whichever program you're interested in, or joining, to talk to them about that and really think about, and look into what that might be. And then I see a question about maintaining work-life balance. Um, this is such an interesting and fascinating question. I I think this is a really, really important thing to consider. Um, Also, one that I think is, difficult at the best of times. Um, I often think about work-life balance more in terms of work-life integration than balance. You know, uh, for me in particular, I have my cell phone on me at all times, which means I have my work email on me at all times. And it's a matter of how do we integrate work and life together, so that it doesn't feel like either one is taking over the other. And I think a lot of times where that starts is by being intentional about your time, and what you're doing, and how you're communicating to folks around you about those intentions. And really working with, depending on your program, your advisor, your PI, your lab, about what their expectations are of your time, and then again, being intentional about what the rest of your day, your week, whatever it looks like. I also think it's important when thinking about work-life balance to understand that there are ebbs and flows to what that looks like. We know that sometimes uh, things get really busy, and that balance is going to be way out of whack, and then things will slow down, and it will kind of tilt the other way. But I think overall maintaining that intentionality is really important. Um, and then through all of that, and I think Jemai and I encourage people to do this all the time. Just make sure that you are focusing on your well-being, um, as you go through, your graduate studies here at the university. It's so easy to get caught up in the day to day of everything going on, and lose sight of taking care of yourself. Whether that's thinking about sleep, eating, your mental well being, kind of whatever you need to do to relax for a bit, or reset, or maintain that good mental headspace. If physical activity is part of your well being, make sure that you're not losing track of that. We're in Michigan, so I always tell people take advantage of the sun and the weather while you can, because once we hit winter, it gets pretty gray for a while. Um, but even then, it might be cold, but get outside because that fresh air does wonders. So, you know, I also think work-life balance is a very personal thing. What that looks like for you is going to be different than what that looks like for me, different than what that looks like for Jemiah. So, if you're ever interested in coming in and really talking about that, you know, happy to do that.